This is Saida Garrett, and I'm tuned in to Intro to Info with my girl Mikeisha.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. It's the Flowices here, and I'm tuned into Intro to Info with my girl Mikeisha. All love, always.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Intro to Info. I'm your host, Mikeisha, and I'm broadcasting live from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Today is Thursday, June 4th, 2026, and we're here live every Thursday right here on the J King Network. My other hosts will be here in just a moment, but that pretty face you see to right beside me is our special guest. Her name is CeWyon Chandler-Ward. Let's get to know CeWyon tonight. CeWyon Chandler-Ward is a certified transformation coach, speaker, and founder of Facet, Flame and Press, a publishing imprint dedicated to stories about identity, self-discovery, and becoming whole. She is known as the chick who quit her dream job with Usher, a story that anchors her broader work exploring what happens when women stop using excellence as camouflage and finally believe they belong in the rooms they're called into. Her coaching is rooted in one belief: awareness is the first step to change. Through her memoir, which we'll be talking about tonight, which is called Who Does She Think She Is? And companion workbook, Who Does She Think She Is? The Work Behind the Woman, CeWyon creates spaces for women to examine the beliefs and patterns that shape them and rewrite the narratives that help bring them and help get them out of their own way. She owns and operates a hand to stone massage and facial spa franchise in North Decatur and builds community around women's stories. She and her husband Reggie live in Metro Atlanta and are proud parents of two adult daughters, Taylor and Reagan. Now, this bio that I just read is right on Amazon, where her book is also located. CeWyon, thank you so much for being our special guest tonight. I'm so excited. I'm trying to contain myself. How are you?
Thank you. I am doing well. Thank you. So happy to be here. I really appreciate you all having me here, Mikeisha.
And I'm telling you, me and CeWyon hit it off just instantly. So I feel like you're my friend already. And so this is just a wonderful moment. I saw you a few minutes ago with your book in your hand. What does that feel like? Because it was just released and I felt excited for you. What was that feeling?
So the initial feeling was one of gratitude and disbelief, to be honest with you, because I have been thinking about, dreaming about writing a book for so long. And if I may be completely transparent, because frankly, that's kind of the only way I roll, this is a challenging thing for me because my parents are no longer with us in this realm. And so, as you can imagine, when you have these milestones, the first people that you think of are the ones who are pretty enmeshed in the stories. But for me, I am grateful, thankful, and I just feel a tremendous amount of humility around how people are embracing my book. You write and you're not sure who's going to be interested or if anyone would want to read it. And the idea that there are people who are interested, and not only have they been interested, they've actually shown up and showed out. I couldn't be more appreciative, honestly.
Well, hi, Lamb Tam.
Lamb Tam,
hey. Hi, welcome.
Thank you kindly. How are you?
Awesome. Love your energy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad that you mentioned your parents, and I'm glad that you said that they're not here in this realm. And I want to say that is personal because, I lost my grandmother in this particular incarnation. But when somebody say, "Oh, grandma's gone now," I always say to myself, "No, she's not. No, she's not. She's just relocated to heaven." Or I say that because they're not really gone. Energy never dies. And so your parents are still here and they are celebrating this moment with you. But
Mikeisha, you're gonna make me cry.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. That's a big deal to me because in writing my story, and how it is, what happens in our house stays in our house, right? Y'all know. Was I the only one that grew up in a household like that where you don't tell our business? And so part of my hesitation, to be honest with you, in coming out with my book was, what would James and Jackie Chandler think about this? How can I treat this story as it is my story? It is what happened to me. It is what I experienced as their child, as my brother's sister, all the things I talk about, as a wife and all those things. How do I treat my parents with the dignity and the grace that even though they're not here, they could still open these pages and be proud that I represented them in the way that I think they deserved, and still keep fidelity to the truth? Because I went through some stuff, y'all. OMG. So yeah, it's a lot of people I talk to who want to write books, they feel the same way. They're like, "Oh, my parents would kill me if I told XYZ." So what I did was I tried to handle challenging situations in a way that was delicate. You know what I'm talking about, but I didn't want to sensationalize anything. There are triggers, I would imagine, some things that happened, but the story wasn't really about that. It was about the story I told myself about me as a result of what I went through. And a lot of us, we come up with some doozies, these lies. I just did a social media post, which is hilarious, y'all. Me on social media, I don't know what I'm doing. It's hilarious. Wham Tam. You should see me. CapCut and I, we're starting to become friends, but she don't really like me yet. So I'm like pressing buttons. I'm like, but I thought you said if I press that button, XYZ. So it's been hilarious. It's a learning experience. But just doing, I was thinking, I said, gosh, I believed all the lies I told myself about myself that life taught me. And then one day I said, girl, wait a minute now. If you wrote the stories, then it stands to reason you can rewrite that damn thing. What are you doing? Like, you're believing all these lies because life was lifing, and you create these beliefs from the wisdom, knowledge, experience of a small child, because that's typically when they happen, right? I call all those negative beliefs my BS, my belief system. So we got to detox that thing. And that's pretty much what I did, frankly.
Some people hesitate to write books because they say that it would be too painful to relive some of the things that they endure. I remember Mickey Howard said that. She said, "I'm not going through that again and having to rewrite it." And then not only you have to rewrite it, but if you go on book tours and do interviews, you're reliving it when you're asked the questions. And so she's like, I don't want to keep living through some of the experiences that I did. So I know that took a great amount of strength from you, CeWyon.
And I honor that because that is a real thing. Stress and trauma stores in the body. The first time, so I speak, right? I go in and speak sometimes. And so some of the first times that I told certain stories out loud, I was almost on the ground doing an ugly cry. And then there's one exercise where we I call it speak into her being, right? And so we talk about the phrase, that one phrase that you've been waiting to hear. Nobody said it, your mom, your dad, or whomever. Sometimes it's not about what people say, because people say, oh, sticks and stones may break our bones or whatever. Words do hurt. But sometimes the words you don't hear can sting just as much. So for me, that exercise was, what's the phrase that you wish somebody had said to you? And mine was, and I had to think long and hard because I never thought about that. You are enough. And when they do the exercise and you have somebody standing in front of you, somebody to the sides and the backs of you, and they pour that phrase, I talk about it in the book, actually. I knew that your body stored trauma, but I never physically experience that thing leaving my body. When I tell you my shoulder, I could feel the release. And I had been almost my whole life, almost always had shoulder pain. And it's always this doggone shoulder right here. And when I was like, do I need to go to the doctor? What was going on here? But I felt the release. And, it's tough for a lot of people to talk about stories that they haven't necessarily healed from. So I would say you let whatever comes up for you do that. And I don't incorporate a story in writing or speaking that I can't speak about without breaking down now, because it is painful. It's really tough. And you got to do some therapy about this stuff. And for me, writing a lot of these stories, like I said, I talked about some trauma. I call them, lowercase t's and, uppercase trauma. It's some of the big traumas, because some people, I don't like to compare trauma and say, well, my trauma is bigger than yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's relative, honey. And it's all trauma. If it's how you perceive it, if it's traumatic, right? So for me, I would never say, well, go ahead and write it as therapeutic. If it's not therapeutic to you, then it's not therapeutic. For me, reliving the stories, I had already done the work. So it was easy, isn't the right word, but it was more manageable for me. But I tell you, the first time there's a chapter in there, first time I read that thing out loud, because I'm talking to little CeWyon. So I go back for her. And little CeWyon, she was a badass. Not a bad little girl. She was, I'm sorry, what my mom and dad told me, I am God's child. And so when my kindergarten teacher used to call me CeWyon, CeWyon Wham Tam, she knew my damn name was CeWyon. But I didn't matter enough. I didn't look like anybody else in the class. My name wasn't like anybody else's in the class. And this little one little brown face in there, I scanned the room and I said, you know what, this lady's, she's playing me. So I walked out. Now, having a Black mom, I almost got my little butt beat because I did walk out, and I went and caused the drink, all the things. But for me, that child disappeared over the years as life, that person who understood who she was and whose she was. Life started lifing. And so we build this armor, right? And protection, and, we start shrinking. And so for me, it's, I'm happy to be back. And it took decades, ladies. Decades.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you and I, we talked about how you knew who you were, but you started to second guess who you were, and you would, like you said, shrink yourself. Do you think that some of the things that you went through in that classroom or during that, those formative years, that one of the reasons why you shrunk yourself as you got older?
Absolutely. And so when you're operating, well, let me just go back. I will say I'll give a trigger warning on this. I had some adverse childhood experiences. I was violated as a 3-year-old. And the reason why I understand how old I was is because I had to ask some adults, okay, when we lived here, how old was I? When this person babysat me, you know what I mean? So that's how I can deduce how old I was. So 3 years old. And when things happen to children, we typically internalize them as something is wrong with us. So that depresses your self-worth. And it you hear arrested development. Well, I had arrested development of self-worth. And so if I were a little person going to kindergarten at 4 years old who hadn't already maybe had those experiences, then I might have been like, I don't know who she's talking to. But what it did for me is when somebody doesn't think enough of you to get your name right, it's not a far leap to, wow, maybe I'm not important enough. Again, I already had arrested self-worth. So then as a child growing up in a household where my parents are fighting all the time, just a lot of those adverse childhood experiences that tend to really negatively impact a child, I didn't have the tools. And let me just say this, because it's tough for me to say the things that I don't believe my parents gave me, because that's not how I feel. I feel that my parents did their very best with what they had. And once I understood that I was asking the wrong question, because I used to say, well, what is wrong with you? Why can't you see yourself the way other people say they see you like, oh, they say you're smart and you're capable. And all I could see is, I didn't get that 100. I got a 95. What did I do wrong? I need to figure out what to do. I never celebrated successes, but I punished my failures. And thank you for identifying the adverse childhood experiences, because what happens to you in childhood, if you don't have somebody there to help shape that thing, almost always you internalize it and there's something wrong with you. So I was asking the wrong question. Once I understood it's not about what was wrong with me, but what happened to me, then it was game on. And that's how I started rewriting a lot of the negative self-beliefs that I had created for myself.
Wow. The title, Who Does She Think She is a question many women hear externally and internally. What does that question mean to you today?
When the earliest memory I have of that phrase, it was always levied at me as a challenge. She thinks she's so cute. Who does she think she is? I'm gonna beat you up after school. You talk like a white girl. I remember it like it was yesterday, because I didn't understand. I was so excited to be, I grew up in Eatonville, the oldest Black incorporated town in America. So I went from Fern Park, where I was the only little Black kid in first grade, second grade. My brother was second grade, third. Every year we were the only little Black kids in the whole grades, like 3 and 4 grades at a time, sections, whatever. So super excited. All right, I get to be around my people. Hey, I'm about to be. And then to get that, and then you think you're so cute. No, I don't. We all are struggling with, and what is it? Comparison is the thief of joy. We all were struggling with, I don't like my nose. I don't like my so-and-so. So I just didn't understand what I was giving off. Mm-hmm. So it caused me to start creating these rules that I didn't really understand were rules. They were just kind of shrinking rules, right? So don't be, be good, but don't be great, because that's going to give you visibility, and that makes you a target. So so now I have taken it on. Hey, Queen of Hearts. Hi. I have taken on that phrase, just like we've taken the N-word, some of us, and we were like, we're going to take that thing back. I took Who Does She Think She Is, and I turned that thing into a title. So it is very dear to me now, but it used to trigger me, man. And I never would fight. I wanted to, though. And maybe before I leave this earth, I might be able to punch something, at least one time. But I was always told to turn the other cheek and whatever. And can I just share this, y'all, which I think is so interesting. I'm 50. I have to go by what year this is. I'll be 56 in October. And over the last certainly 30 years or so, in some way, shape, or form, every single person who said to me, who does she think she is? I'm going to beat you up, has come to me and said, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I admired you. I thought you danced to the beat of your own drum. So them growing up and understanding that it really wasn't about me. It was about themselves. It takes you back to that little kid, that healing that I didn't even know I needed. Because I was like, forget them jokers. I don't care. No, I really appreciated that. And to the point where one of them is a teacher in middle school. And that's when a lot of this stuff happened. And she said, CeWyon, I use you as an example. Because y'all, I grew up when Lisa Bonet on the Cosby Show, when she used to wear those crazy hairstyles. And then she would come, remember, I don't know, y'all look too young. Y'all might not remember this, but.
We remember CeWyon.
Okay. Honey, I didn't know how to do her. I knew how she sometimes used to wear some eyeshadow on one eye and then different eye. So I was like I just loved her style. So I would come to school and do all that. And this teacher says to me, she said, I used to make fun of you, CeWyon. But in reality, I can understand as I grew older and got more self-confident, and I was projecting onto you that, gosh, I wish I was confident enough to do that. But the truth is, y'all, I wasn't confident. I was just wild. I was like, okay, I like it. I'm gonna do it. It wasn't, so we think we're watching people. We're thinking they're so different than us. And we're all struggling with self-image. We're all struggling, especially middle school. It's the monster. They call it the monster for a reason, because everybody's looking at everybody else saying, gosh, I wish I looked like her. I wish I danced like him. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it that she, especially her, says that she uses me as an example, and she tells her students, I had a classmate and we used to make fun of her, and the reality is she would do her own thing. Perception is reality, but the reality is I was struggling emotionally. There's a chapter in the book. I'm just grateful to be here, y'all. So, it's, you just never know what other people are going through and how they feel about themselves. And just because we've been trained to not look like what we go through, I would come to school, especially in high school. My parents would have been fighting, or my mom would have caught my dad with somebody and they're acting a fool, and I got to go to school and act like everything is fine. Every day for my 10th grade year, I fell asleep after lunch because I might have been up the night before mediating a damn fight. But you couldn't go to school and talk about it. So, I just keep on keeping on. I just kept on keeping on, So I don't want it to feel like I am complaining or anything like that, but it's my truth. It is what happened to me. And the truth of the matter is what I did about it is the story. Because a lot of us have gone through a lot of things. And so that's what I'm most proud of, getting to a place where I understood I was believing the lies I said about myself, and taking time to get evidence to refute all those negative beliefs, and just stacking that evidence, rewriting what I thought about myself, and watching it manifest into this beautiful life that God already designed for me and had already said, girl, this is yours. Don't ask me for something and then act like you know whose you are. And so for me, y'all, it's the full circle moment, because there are a few years that there's no way you could have gotten me to write this book and put it out there like that. It was too visible. To me, one of the costs of being visible was you get who she thinks she is, so that's my story. It really is.
Queen of Hearts, you guys want to speak? Because I have my list of questions otherwise.
I just want to say I applaud you for writing your book. I am definitely intrigued to read it at this point. But I understand, what the hesitation. Because we as a culture, everything is hush hush. Everything is, don't you embarrass me, or you hear that from a small age. And like you were saying, the formidable years, I've heard before that once you turn 8 years old, you have learned everything you're going to learn about who you are. And at that age, you have to now be deprogrammed in order to be different.
Right. No.
So you said you were 3 with some trauma. So you can only imagine psychologically how that affects you moving forward, right?
Right.
And then not maybe being able to say anything, or, you know what I mean? We are really strong as people. That people always say, they want to think that they're superior, but we have so many things stacked against us.
Yep.
From the hush to the oppression to slavery to just everything, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a good sign that you were able to share. And I've had trauma myself, so I get it. And when you talk about things that you don't want to talk about, it does make you relive it. But you have to, I feel, understand that it's going to help someone else. You never know what people are going through, and they're going through something.
Right.
I don't care what social media, if they look fabulous and they always look put together, it does not matter. Everybody struggles with something. So I would say gold star for someone. You have definitely, you set a bar for even the title of the book is, it's catchy, but it's also really demonstrating that you understand I am who I am. I'm going to be who I am. And don't let the two words that are now in my vocabulary, don't let audacity and entitlement stop you. Because your parents are not here, but they were still able to almost influence your decisions just because of who they are.
Absolutely. No, I thank you. And what I'm most grateful for in terms of, like I said, my parents, they did the best they knew how. If I'm going to extend grace to myself, and I change that question from, oh, it's not about what's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. What happened to me, then I have to also do the same for my parents. And so it's very much more easy for me to look at my dad's behavior or even my mother's behavior and accepting some of those things rather, and say, of course she would do that, or of course he would say that, because once I didn't get these lessons, unfortunately, until end of life, pretty much from my dad, for sure. And I just lost him in 2021, and or he transitioned in 2020. I don't believe I've lost my dad. I talk to my dad all the time. I don't know if he answers me, but I talk to him all the time. But no, so I sat and I had I finally got the guts to ask my dad, because I'm 50 something, so you can imagine my dad was in his 80s by the time he was transitioning. And the way I grew up, kid needed to be in the kid's place, and you didn't ask grown-ups about their business. And so there were a lot of holes that I would overhear stuff, and I'm like, well, I wonder why they did. So I just said, okay, Dad, so let me ask you this. Why did you ever get married? You had no business being anybody's husband. And he said, I wanted Chandler's. And I said, but Dad, you had a whole wife before my mom. Then you had baby in the marriage, and a baby out here, and then a baby out there, and then and I'm like, but those were Chandler's. And then you got another wife, and she was like, yeah, no, I'm out of here. Then my mom comes along, you have 3 Chandler's, but you had Chandler's already. And I learned, y'all, that my dad had this very narrow definition of who his children were, and if they lived in the house with him. Like, it was just, I was like, what? It was mind blowing. And then another piece that he really messed me up on the marriage part. And I said, okay. So, at Chandler's, you got married a few times, but why did you chase so many women? That joker said, see my eyebrow raised just like this. I didn't chase women. Women chased me. I said, oh, Lord, my daddy is, you think your parents, but for him to say that, he wasn't lying. But I was like, I said, well, okay, Dad, well, why did you let them catch? Why did you let so many catch you? And so I was able to, once I understood my dad's trauma with some things in his past, I was able to give him grace, because he would tell you, I didn't play about my mother. You can't be a good husband or good dad to me, and you're not a good husband to my mom. So we struggled. And if he walked in here today, you would say, good God, you look like that joker. Like, I look just like my dad. I'm very much, but we're so different in personalities. But for me, it was enlightening to hear his struggles and his trauma, and that's what shaped him. And I didn't give him a pass, of course, but it helped me to give him more grace. And it was a wonder that he didn't turn into the person that he did, because he also didn't have any interventions, because people were just living, trying to make it, right? And so we parents, we do the best we can under the circumstances, but shoot, sometimes we need the help ourselves. So yeah, I definitely appreciated finding out the things that I did, because it made me not be so resentful to my mom for staying, if I'm being 100% transparent. That little girl at 5 years old decided, when her parents divorced, that she would never get a divorce once she got married. So no matter what, and again, 5-year-old making rules for a grown-up's life, we do it all the time.
Defining moments. It's moments in your life that just define other moments of your life. And that was a defining moment for you, CeWyon. CeWyon, you are a joy to interview. You're making it so easy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Now, you all, I love your energy. I said, oh, this is going to be fun. I feel like I'm, with my girls. So I appreciate being here, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
CeWyon, you often describe yourself as the chick who quit her dream job with Usher. What did walking away from that opportunity teach you about success and self-worth?
So at the time when I quit, I didn't know I was walking away because of imposter syndrome. I didn't learn till at least 5 years later that that was why I left that job. What I told myself in that moment, oh, I'm not seeing my own children enough. I'm working with all these children across the country for this organization. It is great, but I can't let my own kids suffer. No, girl, you were just afraid that somebody was going to say, uh-oh, we made a mistake. You don't really belong here. You don't know what you're doing. And I didn't recognize that at the time. So it took me, like I said, 5 years after somebody came, and we were actually from Howard. He came and we went to lunch, and he was like, hey, I want you to meet this guy. He was in from LA, and I don't want to dox him. So I'll say, because I never got permission to talk about this. So I don't know how they would feel about it, but it's my truth. We went to lunch talking and just offhanded comment. Oh yeah, remember I was telling you she used to run Usher's nonprofit. And again, very casual conversation. And then the other guy says, oh, Viola Davis wants to start a nonprofit. Would you like for me to recommend you? No, girl. So my face is like this. Oh, well, that sounds great. I don't do that anymore. But if you could have seen what was happening inside my body, I was like, oh, hell, I can't let these people know I don't know what I'm doing. Are you kidding me? Because remember, any accolades I got from that other job, it was a fluke. Because in my low self-worth, I didn't think, because, it's not about thinking it's not about confidence. It's about you don't think you are enough. You don't belong here. You have to prove your worth. So we do well, we overachieve because perfectionism causes us to over prepare, and you're not going to walk in a room and not know everything. So it's exhausting. So that situation with the Viola, that's the day that I said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this. Is some bull. I got to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. And I literally went to the car and I cried out to God, and I said, God, what's wrong with me? Please tell me, why don't I see myself the way other people see me? They keep telling me I'm so smart. And I'm like, who? Oh, you talking about me? Oh, and it's not fake humility. It was literally, I did not see that in me. And so for me in that moment, I just started going on a deep dive. I found a book, it's Dr. Susan Jeffers, How to Feel as Smart and Capable as Other People Think You Are. And I learned the phrase imposter syndrome for the first time. And I'm like, hold up. Girl, you know me? You wrote this, y'all, it was amazing. I do believe that God puts people in your place and in your path for reasons. And I wasn't necessarily ready at that prior to, but in that moment, and I just kind of, I had tabs open on my computer and books and all that. And I just started learning about that. And that's when I first learned about adverse childhood experiences. And that's when it changed from what's wrong with me to, oh, it's what happened to me. And it changed my life. So you might want to know that I've been this close to telling Usher, why I left? Because I've run into him a few times, and we're in Atlanta here, kids went to the same school, all that. And I couldn't bring myself to do it. Because even though it is the truth and it's my story, like I said, at the time, I thought I was just leaving to go take care of my family and whatever. But one of these days, Lord willing, I'm going to have that conversation. And because I totally enjoyed working with the students, and it was just an amazing opportunity. And it was a great intersection between what I enjoy, which is business and entrepreneurship, and then wrap it around the business of entertainment. It was my thing. And I walked away. So don't do what I did. My mantra is don't let you stop you. Get out of your own way. And this book is how I got out of mine. Literally, I talk about the steps that I took to do that.
Who does she think she is? That's the title of the book, ladies and gentlemen. It's available at Amazon In what format, CeWyon?
So we have the Kindle edition, and if you are enrolled in the Kindle Unlimited, you actually get to read it as part of your subscription, so you don't have to pay any extra. We also have the hardcover and a paperback. And I am working on an Audible by popular demand, but I have to tell you, I wanted to do my own voice, and it sounds so much. You all are doing this all the time, so doing your own thing, it's certainly a little bit more strenuous than I thought, and I've probably gotten about 2 chapters in, but hopefully I'll be able to get that out in the next 30 days or so. And as well, the companion workbook. So this is the book is Who Does She Think She Is? Becoming the Woman I Needed When I Was a Girl. The companion book is Who Does She Think She Is? The Work Behind the Woman. Because it's one thing to read my story and you may identify with it, you may see yourself in that, but now it's about taking the principles of this story, looking at your own lives, extracting those pivotal moments. I call them your origin stories. I can tell you where my hatred of math came from. Exactly the day. Mr. W, I ain't gonna say his name, but why do people do this, y'all? You tell the kid to go to the board. You know dang on well she don't know how to do the problem. And then you shame them when they don't know what they're doing. Did y'all, was it just me? Is it just me?
It's not just you. No.
It's not just you.
And then the kids are like, you know, she don't know. Like, if I had had a different experience and he looked like me in a room that didn't look like me, if I had had a different experience, I do believe that math wouldn't. My baby daughter, she's 23. Oh my gosh, my baby will be 23 next week. Lord of mercy. She ain't a baby anymore. I have a 28-year-old and a 23-year-old. So she used to say, I hate math and math hates me. And I'm like, no, baby. So I didn't have it. I felt that. I never articulated it in the way that she did. But once I heard her say that, I was like, oh no, we about to turn this thing around. My mother was too busy doing life to recognize that I probably needed somebody to show me, but the reality is the teacher, that experience really shaped how I look at math. And I just wish I had had a different experience. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, may you please put the book back up? I want to talk about this cover. Is that your silhouette? Talk about why you chose this color, this picture. What's the story behind the cover of the book?
That is absolutely my silhouette. And it was a juxtaposition between the light and the dark. So I call it my little gremlin, my inner voice, that doggone, it is hard. It's harsh, not hard, horse with a hard H. Back in the day, I would be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then it would be like, so not only was it an external, who does she think she is, but the loudest, who does she think she is, was coming from old girl on my shoulder. So for me, I wanted, it was very intentional. I wanted the light. I wanted me to be looking towards the light. I wanted it to be, I did not want it to be a picture of me. I wanted, because I think that would have been too literal. I wanted people to see a silhouette and then imagine themselves in that silhouette. So that was kind of my little brainchild. And I mean, you know, I like her. She's cute. She's cute. And then the pearls. I did choose pearls intentionally. As you may know, pearls pretty much form from a grain of sand that's essentially a nuisance for the clam. But more and more nuisance packs on, you know, in life, we pack on protection, we pack on, and then something beautiful, that little pearl comes out of that. So this is essentially, you know, it's kind of, you know, just what we do. We take all this protection and we pack on this protection, but it actually can be turned into something beautiful and sustaining. And so that's why I don't wear a lot of pearls, to be honest with you, but for me, just that pearl motif really brought home the idea of taking something that might have been, like I did with the title, might have been a nuisance to you, and making it a pearl.
Wow. Wow.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Queen of Hearts, any questions or comments for our special guest, CeWyon Chandler-Ward?
Well, I just wanted to say, you know, we, like Tam said earlier, we as women, ethnic women, we always heard from our own race when they battling us, bashing us or whatever, who does she think she is? It's like, I'm not thinking I know. When you get to a certain point in your life, middle school, like you say, we finding ourselves, trying to discover our stuff or whatever. But when you get to the high school point and they ask that question, even in elementary school, I mean, some of us was mature enough to answer that. I know who I am. I ain't no thinking I know.
Yep.
So it's sad how we use that as a derogatory type harsh term towards other ethnic women instead of commending or, like you said, complimenting or just being as a support system. That's what we really needed, when you're going through those different channels. But hearing that and I'm reading the title of your books, I said, oh Lord, we know what this is about. Because you heard the term so much growing up. And then another thing I wanted to touch on, like you had mentioned about during childhood growing up, in the home, they always say what happened in the home, stay in the home. So like you stated, we carry a lot of that trauma because we couldn't go tell Big Mama them. We couldn't go tell Auntie down the street or our play cousins because you was going to get punished for that.
Right.
And if you went through something traumatic, it's like, if I go tell somebody else, how mom gonna feel or how dad gonna feel if I tell it to them? Am I gonna get punished for that as well? Or are they gonna blame me for that and stuff? So we as women, I feel like we are the more superior being because we carry so much. We go through so much. We can handle so much. We give birth and that's not easy, so who does she think she is? Superwoman. We superwoman. We every woman. We everything. That's a wide range for that title, but I feel like you selected a good one for your book.
That
Very
means a
good.
lot to me. Seriously, I really appreciate that. No, who does she think she is? Exactly who she was always meant to be. That's who I am. And you said a whole lot of truths about just go up the street and tell Big Mama if you want to. You won't do it again. And the silence. So my parents did go to their graves without knowing that these things happened to me. It's sad because you just touched on something really important. Again, I don't think I'm worthy of whatever it is I'm not worthy of. So I went into protection mode because I knew if my dad found out or my brothers or somebody is going to be a problem. I knew if my mother found out, she was going to be, I was more in I've gone to so much therapy. And I will say that I am absolutely an advocate of therapy. I am a coach, but I think therapeutic intervention on things like this, some of the things we were talking about, the things that happened to us, what changed me from being able to talk about stuff. There are certain things that I would never be able to say out loud. I always get the acronym, movement desensitization. I think it's EMDR. Can't remember what the R stands for, but game changer. Because again, the body keeps score. The body, and that's another book, really good book.
Yes, CeWyon.
Oh, man, what? Listen. But when I understood the reason why I couldn't let this trauma go is I wasn't talking about it, but also I couldn't talk about it because just the shame. And then at 3 years old, you don't even, and this is 3 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, you don't even know what's happening because you don't have any context. You just know this person is saying, I'll give you some candy corns if you don't tell them. I cannot look at candy corns without feeling nauseous. Never understood why. So it's tough because I didn't really know. I just knew, well, they're telling me to be silent. But then once I understood what had happened, when I thought about this would destroy my parents. So instead of me looking like my therapist said, girl, it wasn't about your parents. There we go. Thank you. Eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. That reprocessing is the biggest part. Yes. It really helped me, especially this story. I could talk about all the other adverse childhood experiences except this one. And once I started talking about it, I couldn't talk about it without crying. And so, because I never even thought that it impacted me because I was so young, that I pretty much stuffed it down and I ignored it essentially. And so it manifested in different ways. It took me forever to be willing to get married, or I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm protecting me. And so you develop these false protections that are really stifling you. They're protecting you all right, but they're also holding you back from good stuff and good people. So if I can advocate one thing, I know in our community sometimes therapy doesn't feel like it's as embraced, but I didn't have the results that from just talk therapy that I did from that desensitization and reprocessing. So it's just my little 2 cents on that, for sure.
What was the most difficult chapter of your story to write, and why?
The one about my mom and dad. I thought that it was important to, like I said, I talked so much about what they did or didn't do and what happened and all those things. I really wanted it to also talk about who they were and sort of a kind of lifting them up and they did the best that they could. They were flawed just like everybody else. They were imperfectly perfect to me. So I wanted to present them in a way that you could see who they are. And then you could also, in seeing part of their stories, kind of map to, oh, that's why she made those decisions. Oh, that's why he did that. And so that was a tough one because, again, they're not here to say it's okay. But I believe that I did it in a way that still honors them. It presents them in a as positive as I could, but to stick with the truth of the humanity of them. It was the hardest, but I think it's probably the one I'm most proud of.
I like how you kind of angle things whereby you don't harbor anger. It's like, be curious, not judgmental. You sought to understand why your parents did some of the things that they did. And you said, oh, okay. For all we know, we would have reacted the same way or did the same thing.
And that's a good point. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I did have some resentment and harbor some judgment over the years. But once I understood, oh, wow, so I need to look into their stories too. And kind of that helps me give them grace. So now I really apply it to almost everybody I deal with. And, I'm an employer, right? So I have all these employees that sometimes I'm like, now what in the world? But then I'll try to, as much as I could without, we're still a business setting, right? As much as I can understand sort of what's going on with them, it helps me to give grace. And I do it with my husband, particularly. I've been married. It'll be September 1st. It'll be 30 whole years. And we have really done the internal work. And it sometimes I'm like, of course he would say that, because I know his story, and vice versa. So we can, it helps you to give. And again, I don't want to phrase this as you're giving people excuses to mistreat you or excuse, because that's not what it's all about. I often say, yeah, I'll forgive, but I'm not going to forget. And it just helps because, forgiveness is about you, right? It's not for them, it's for yourself. So for me, it just helps me to forgive. I may not ever fool with you again, but it does let me let go of the stuff that, it's like drinking poison and waiting for them to die. Y'all have heard that, right? And I used to do that. And one of the things that I talk to, like I said, I have 2 daughters, and I talk to them a lot about giving grace. Give the grace that you want to receive back. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I try to live.
I want to say, go ahead, Queen. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, from a biblical perspective, yeah, you're doing exactly what God said to do, to forgive and things of that nature. And say, even if your brother offend you, forgive them 70 times 7 and then some, which is a hard pill to swallow, but in order to move forward in life, you have to forgive. But like you say, once you do that and you see the angles that they're coming at you, you move differently with that person. You ain't gonna move the same with them when they're in your arena, because again, you're protecting your peace, your space. So I get that because I'm the same way. I'm gonna forgive you, but I'm watching you and I'm moving differently with you, and I will not play with you the same way from this day forward. So yeah, I get it.
CeWyon, I'm so sorry that you endured some of the things that you did in the classroom and just from people who look like us who said, "Who does she think she is?" I'm hoping that you don't have to endure any of that today. You are a successful entrepreneur, businesswoman. I'm so proud to that have met your acquaintance, and I just admire the things that you're doing. But does that still happen, even if it's in other ways where people do that in one way or another, present day?
Thank you so much for your kind words. I do appreciate that. As a franchisee, we have about 650 or so locations across the country, the United States and Canada, actually North America. We have franchisees who are from all walks of life, but the preponderance of them don't look like me, right? And most of them are male, which is interesting. I'm in the spa business, the wellness business, day spa, Hand and Stone. Please come see you, girl. In Decatur. And in fact, we always have a special, shameless plug. We're always having gift card specials, and we can email them all over the country, and you can actually redeem them wherever you want. So please consider handandstonedecatur.com. But yeah, there are a lot of males, and I would say the first week, or maybe it had to be the first week. I was, everybody, what I love about my franchise is that you get to see everybody else's numbers, right? So you can see how well they're doing, how not, whatever. And so if you're doing well, then you tend to, if you're collegial like Georgia, or at least Metro Atlanta was, we would kind of rally around each other and say, hey, good job or whatever. So I would get these calls from these guys. Girl, what you doing over there, girl? You killing it. Like they were surprised. Mm-hmm. It was not expected of me. So it was very much made a big deal. And so I don't know if it's necessarily, who does she think she is? It's, you've seen those, you're a different kind of Negro. Like that. It was that energy. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm over here like, thanks, but I'm blackity black. I love blackity black. Okay. So thank you. And I always tell, so for me, it felt like a who does she think she is moment.
Sure.
But just because you're phrasing it in a positive, like an affirmation, it still had that energy. So yeah, I still get that. It's, it's interesting. And for me, there are people who certainly would prefer that Decatur doesn't thrive. I know that for a fact, but I don't really give them any energy. God bless them. I keep it moving. Like I said, I treat, not just the people who work with me. And notice I said with me, you don't work for me. You work for yourself. And
hey, wait, Snitchy, can we hand clap that? I'm sorry, CeWyon.
No.
I would love the hand clap that. I was back here already. Yes, yeah. Well, let me see, sister. Do I have? Yeah,
we got the hand clap that one.
Yes. Yeah, you work for yourself. You work for so
thank you,
ladies.
Yes, indeed.
Anybody?
And you talk about Decatur.
Yes.
We're at in Decatur, because my family born, raised all up and through that area. So yes.
Yes. So they would be familiar probably with it used to be the DeKalb Medical Hospital. It is now Emory Decatur. We're right at Church Street, and there's a Whole Foods in the plaza.
Okay.
1545 Church Street, right at Church Street and North Decatur Road. And if you're standing looking at Whole Foods, looking straight at Whole Foods from the parking lot, if you look to the left, you'll see us. And I share the wall, the space. Gusto is right next to me. And then there's I'm right in the middle of that. So and can I just tell y'all, let me tell you about that real quick, about that location. You cannot ask God for something and then turn around and say, oh, I didn't mean for it to be that space. I didn't want that much. That's too much for me. Because that's literally what I did when it came down to getting that location, because I thought I was going to do a smaller location. I'm new to the industry. I didn't really know much about it. That's why I decided to do a franchise versus striking out on my own and doing an independent. Unlike our car washes, we are an independent brand, Zoom Express Car Wash, also in Decatur, where it's greater. But when I saw they were building it from there was nothing there. It was a flat space. And I was like, ooh, I want to be there. Is the hospital there? They're going to be building a Whole Foods, blah, blah, blah. But every space was taken. So the broker I was using, I said, hey, let the developer know that if anything comes available, I want it. I put it on my vision board. If I'm lying, God will strike me down right now. It was less than 24 hours later that this broker calls me and says, hey, CeWyon, this Sage Dental decided they're not going to expand. So this space is open if you want it. And I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Okay, well, Hand and Stone says I need 2,400 square feet. How big is it? And he said 3,600. I was like, wait a minute, what? No. I only need.
Wow.
Almost didn't take the lease, because even though I talk about, it's about who I become, and that little gremlin sometimes still appears. So the good news is, even when you reframe things, you have to keep doing it. It's like, you don't learn your math facts and never practice them again. So it's exactly the same thing. So when she came and said, Negro, I know dang on well, you're not going to put yourself in a lease like that because it's a big number. And my husband, who I told you we were in the car wash business has very big, way bigger numbers than he's accustomed to those types of huge expenses. But I was over there, carried in one. Yeah, I'm scared. God was like, you don't ask me for something and tell me it's too big. Have you lost your mind? So don't block your blessings because you're so afraid. I was still shrinking. And the good news is I didn't stay shrunken. It used to be like, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to try it. I was like, whoa, I'm back. Okay, God, thank you. So, and I would be lying if I didn't say that the moment in time that we're in right now with this economy and the stuff in this world that's happening has not impacted my businesses within us. It is very challenging. And we are doing everything we can to be okay. Because as you can imagine, as grocery prices and gas prices go up, first thing that's going to go is a massage or a facial. It's just plain old economics, right? So if you all know anybody who's here, please ask them to come see us. If, like I said, if you're all across the country, you can buy gift cards, handandstonedecatur.com, send them to your family and friends, and give the gift of relaxation and rejuvenation. And, even facials are relaxing and they help you feel like your best self. So I would really appreciate that. And please go buy my book, please. I would really appreciate that too. Any format that you want. Really appreciate y'all taking the time to talk with me. I have to say it was a blast.
And I'm going to pass this link on as soon as Mikeisha send it to me. I'm going to send it to all the fam that's all over Georgia. They in Gwinnett, they in Lithonia, they in Stone Mountain, they in College Park. So they all around you.
I might know your people, girl. I live right around there. I know I live in Lithonia and I'm near the Stone Mountain Park. I probably know your people. And I would love to connect with them if you're open to it.
Okay, and I'm going to send them over this link so they can get in contact with you and come to your establishment.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
CeWyon Chandler-Ward was our special guest tonight on Intro to Info. Thank you so much. You are a beautiful guest, and we appreciate your time, your candor, Wham Tam, and Queen of Hearts, and Snitchy Smurf, and Jay King. Thank you all for being such excellent collaborators. We'll be back next Thursday with some more of that Intro to Info. Until then, you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Blessings, ladies. Thank you. Such a pleasure to meet you all.
Same here.
Thank you, CeWyon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all take care.
You too.
Can't wait to see you again, sister.
Yeah.